scan this content. So we got to make sure we can go through the CONOPS and the architectures, and then we have to get into things like, okay, where we're going to store all this stuff, and classified once we get it all gathered up. So there's a lot of issues and concerns there. And normally when you start talking about who's responsible for classifying data, anybody know? Classifying data. All right, I'll make it multiple guesses. There you go. Whoever owns the data, right? So the data owner is, the business owner should own the data, and they should make the call. Well, we never identified a business owner for the data. I just said, let's kick the skids, light the fire, we'll brief on our Fox mic radio as we go off the battle site. And so, we got to fly midway and say, okay, well, who's the data owner? I don't know. You the data owner? No, I'm not the data owner. You the data owner? So I took it upon myself to take a couple of my Army knowledge leaders, these young interns, and I gave them a task, and I said, I need an acceptable use policy, and I need a data classification guidance document. I need it, like, now. Go research, go figure it out, but I need pieces of paper that says those two things on top, and I need it ASAP. And so they actually did a really good job. They went out and they looked at the CIO-Council, they looked at the National Committee, or Committee for National Security Systems documentation out there, and they wrote both those documents up there. But lessons learned here is we need to have a data owner. It's not Mike Jones. And I went back to General Hernandez. I pinned that rose on his chest there since he is the new commander of cyber. So I figured since he was the newest Army commander out there, he ought to be the data owner. But it also seemed to link nicely with his mission statement. So once we had that, then we need to have a way to enforce the data standards itself. This is where Mr. Krieger, the acting CIO of the Army, basically kind of give me some very specific guidance directions. And Mike, it needs to tie into our enterprise email identity management capability. Sounds like clear enough guidance to me. Got it. From my lessons learned. So those were kind of the key highlights there, and that's kind of the summation of the lessons learned that I've got out there. I think next slide. So now I just kind of have a lot of slides in here. Just kind of regurgitates everything I just told you, but having already told you everything, I would just open it up at this point in time for some dialogue or some questions. And we have how much time?
22 minutes.
22 minutes. Plenty of time. Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about continuous monitoring, now that you talk about the kind of data we're actually getting, how often did the data actually change, and how continuous is continuous? Is it like daily, weekly, monthly, or better than that?
So how often is continuous? That's a great question. I like to use it in reference models with under the DICAP right now. The Army and everybody is required to do our certification and accreditations every 36 months. And so from every 36 months, I'd like to move towards every 36 hours. But it depends. It's certain attributes you might be interested in learning 3 times a day, but others may only be once a week or once a month or once a year. So it varies on that. I think the Department of State's actually running some scans, or routine scans, 2-3 times a week, but sometimes given the worldwide nature of their networks and the pipe size and everything, it takes a while to hold data up in order to get it scored. Excellent question. So the answer is it varies, and don't worry, I won't be in. Next question. Okay,
Already know with Carsoft Systems, the enforceable access control. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Enforceable access. What is enforceable access control lessons learned? So within the data itself. So how do we control access to this data? So that was one of the things where I had some people say, okay, well, Mike, I got all this data, but I'm not letting you or anybody else have access to data because I don't trust any of you. Right? So that's where I had to come up with the ADP guidance that I'm giving with my firstborn, and cut off my right hand if I goes in the information on there. So by implementing a control based upon where the Army is heading to enterprise email and our identity management That's the key area right there, is the identity management. To say, okay, so now I know who Jones really is, because he's authenticated using public key encryption, right? PKI, PKE. And then we go in and say, yes, he is now going to be authorized access to this data. And that's tying back to the enterprise identity management system that DISA is helping us put together as part of our enterprise email. So that's going to be tied into there, so we can then definitely say, okay, if Mike Jones, we know it is him, and yes, he is on the access list for the CMRS, let him have at it. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Question over here?
Yeah, it seems like your risk analysis, you're heavily focused on assessing the patch, the vulnerability status of individual units.
Right.
What are your thoughts on taking into account the human aspect, and sort of someone not doing their job, of leaving, misconfiguring a firewall, what have you?
All right, Jake, thank you.
Thank you.
So within CMRS, right now we've been talking about a lot about the technology, but the other things I like to talk about is the people, the processes, and the technology that we need to be concerned with. And so as I've always been telling my boss, it's crawl, walk, and run. But I'm definitely very concerned about the people aspect of it, because in my opinion, that's the most important resource that we have out there today. If you ask the red teams, these guys in the military that go out and are authorized to do penetration testing on the network, you ask them what their worst nightmare is when they go to do a mission to say, can I get into your network? And it's not the firewalls, it's not the technology, it's their worst nightmare is a highly motivated system administrator that knows their network and knows their stuff. And so how can we now evaluate under CMRS the people aspect of it? A couple of things we can do. One of the things we are in the process of piloting right now is what we call the IA tip of the day, for information assurance online training. So if I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, well, how can I better educate the workforce? And right now, I have to go through an annual IA online training session. I just did it last week from my hotel room. So I figured I had time to kill time, so I went through there and I did the 30, 40 minutes on the online training line. But I said, man, that would be nice, because there's a lot of people that are going to blow that off, won't go out to the website and click on the link. But I know that every day people want to show up to work, they're going to log into their computer. Ha! I got them, right? So when they log in, guess what? Maybe 3 times a week, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, have a little pop-up. Would you click on an email signed by, you just won $10 million, just give me your name, social security number, date of birth, and you hit submit to collect. Yeah, I want my $1 million. I didn't click on that, right? And so this system has the capability to say, okay, if Jones just clicked on the knucklehead answer, and he said, yes, he would click on that. So we need to send somebody down here to go give him another lozenge, right? So we have that capability as when people log into the systems to capture them at that point in time. And oh, by the way, anybody here has got the coveted CIO-Council certification? Yeah? All right, yeah, we 1, 2, 3 smart guys in the room here. Guess what? So if you're on my network, and I'm paying you that extra money, right? You guys get a lot of extra money for that certification, I know, right? But I'm going to send you harder questions, right? And all those wannabes out there, right? I'm going to send you that. I'm going to send you test questions. So we can educate those users that are out there, and we can actually quantify within the commands where people are at with their training. And oh, by the way, I know some folks in here might have been working with the federal, with USPAC out there in Hawaii, and Dave Boucher out there, he's kind of been a leader in this. These guys